My colleague John Liu, who is the chair of the subcommittee on the New York City Department of Education. I am also on the Education Committee besides the New York City Subcommittee on Education. And obviously, as you all know, that's why you're here. This is a forum in order to hear from you about the question of whether or not this specialized high school exams and what should we do about increasing the diversity in the New York City schools. So that's really what it's about. Many of you know that it's been in the papers for a while. We know that there's been hearings already. And so this is a continuation of hearings in every borough about this particular matter. So that's really what it's about. And I am open for consideration of everything. My mind is not closed. And so I want to hear from you. And then down the road, either we collectively, and I say we, the New York State Senate and Assembly, in essence the legislature and the governor, will deal with the matter or not deal with the matter. And quite frankly, I cannot tell you what will happen. So with that, I am open for consideration to consider everything, and I'm willing to read and listen. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, the chair of this committee that's having it tonight, John Liu. John.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. I want to welcome everybody. 大家欢迎. Buenas noches a todos. This is a wonderful community forum that we're having once again, the fourth of a series of community forums that where we are going all around the city of New York, hearing from anybody and everybody who has an opinion on the issue of admissions to the specialized high schools and school diversity or lack thereof in general. Senator Jackson is a member of our committee, and his reputation precedes himself all over the city because he has been the champion of education for all of our students. Let's give him a round of applause for everything he's done. This guy walks to Albany for our schools, not once, but twice. And so, I'm really proud to be standing alongside somebody who's been such a fierce education advocate. This is a very emotional issue. It has also become unnecessarily, in my opinion, unnecessarily divisive. I believe that if we listen to everybody and everybody has a chance to be heard, from that we can craft any public policy or any changes if necessary to go forward. And to go forward in a sustainable manner where there will not be years and years of friction and distrust, but instead an understanding. And at the end of the process, we may or may not agree with each other, but at least we know where to agree to disagree. But that's what a democratic process is all about. And listening to people is a necessary component of democracy. And so with that, we're going to kick off this community forum, this time in Manhattan. We have lots of speakers to hear from. And so what I want to ask is to be as articulate and succinct as possible. Limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. I'm sorry, 2 minutes. All right? Limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes. And the reason we do that is so that everybody can be heard in a reasonable time frame. But if you would like, and I'll be here all night, so you can come back for seconds and continue your comments. You know, I think this is a good way where we can have everybody's voice heard in a reasonable time frame, and you can still continue to provide your comments. All this will be recorded and summarized and digested, so that we can figure out what, if any, changes to make going forward. And with that, Senator Jackson, the man said it himself. Let's begin. We also want to thank our wonderful staff for putting this together. It takes a lot of work even to just organize this forum.
I'm St. Chowdhury. I've had the humble honor of serving as
The speaker is speaking to us. They should be facing this way or on the side so other people will be able to see them and we should see them. But not facing, not speaking to them, he's speaking to us. Everyone is speaking to us. So, and even put it more on an angle so that the people will be able to see him also, see the speaker, move it down some more if you don't mind. Yeah, we can see you right here. That's good. Can everybody see him? Yeah. Okay, great. And that's what we want. We want him to speak to us, but everybody should observe what he's saying and not his back. Whoever's speaking. You may begin, sir, anytime you're ready. Loud and clear, so everybody can hear you.
Well, that's great thinking. I'm St. Chowdhury. I've had the humble honor of serving as the president of the East Texas Student Union. My parents immigrated to New York City from Bangladesh in the mid-90s looking for better opportunities. My father has worked in a deli for over 3 decades. My mother has worked in newspapers for over a decade. Now she's up in California. I've attended public school my entire life. Like many first-generation immigrants, my story is not too different from those of immigrants before me, whether they be from South America, West Africa, East Asia, the Caribbean, or the West Indies. As a first-generation immigrant, I absolutely support measures to increase diversity in specialized high schools. The fact that only about 11% of Black and Hispanic students attend specialized high schools is deeply tied to grade 3 to 8 proficiency. In 2018, Black and Hispanic students only comprised 44% of applicants, and when proficiency levels are 25% across the city, mathematically one would expect about 11% of offers to go to Black and Hispanic students. We're failing our Black and Hispanic students long before the transition to high school. It's a systemic failure. I have yet to understand how failing 70% of our Black and Hispanic students across the city is acceptable. We have the ability to target students who are struggling, and we have the ability to support them. Yet the DOE time and time again fails to do so. Corona, one of the largest hubs of the Latinx community in New York City, also happens to have some of the most overcrowded schools New York City has ever seen. Overcrowding means students sit on radiators and in the hallways. It means having a gymatorium, combined cafeteria, gymnasium, and auditorium shared between multiple schools squeezed into one building. It means refusing to give our students an equitable opportunity. Everyone deserves the same opportunity I have. It's about time we expand the specialized high schools and create more pathways to high achieving schools while integrating from a much earlier age. Thank you for holding this hearing and allowing me to speak on behalf of college students.
So I just say to you that you said everything you needed to say, but people were saying that you were speaking so fast. But obviously you presented your testimony, but you were speaking so fast that I don't know whether or not everyone comprehended exactly what you said. And it seems as though my mic is louder than yours. So can we switch mics? Because quite frankly, we want to everyone wants to hear you nice and clear. So we just have, we have another mic beside this one, John. Can I have that? Can I have that one, please? So anyone who speaks, please. Just speak right into the mic so everybody will hear. Is that okay? Those are the only two mics. Okay, that's a better mic. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Whoever's next.
All right. Next, Your Honor, can you call the next speaker?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to speak fast too, although I submitted.
Okay, wait. Speak directly into the mic so everybody can hear you loud and clear. So whenever you're ready, take your time.
Good evening. My name is Kevor Primyan, and I'm the father of a student who graduated from Stuyvesant in 2017 and a student who will graduate from Bronx Science this year. I've been walking the halls of specialized high schools for the last 6 years as a parent volunteer and a track dad. I agree in all sincerity that the lack of diversity in these schools is abysmal. But I don't think the problem is the SHSAT, because in selected schools like Hart, Beacon, Townsend, Harris, the lack of diversity is only slightly less dreadful, and they do not use the SHSAT. Blaming the SHSAT is simply political pandering at best and shameful cynicism at worst. I believe the problem lies in preparation for these schools through K through 8. GNT programs feed these schools, and they have been decimated or eliminated in large swaths of the city. Even where they still exist, like my community in Queens, information on attending these programs is severely lacking. Consider the example of my two daughters, born in 1999 and 2001. Even though my wife has 2 master's degrees, she was a stay-at-home mom when it was time to register our daughters in GNT. Even with her time and worldliness, it took weeks to figure out that while we were zoned for PS49, the test was offered in PS87 and the programs were housed in PS153. It seems simple now, but it was a Herculean effort to muddle through the process. Over the years, armed with all this insight, we have guided no fewer than 5 children of friends and neighbors into GNT programs. Their parents simply lack knowledge of the existence or the awareness of the programs or the information how to navigate the system without our expertise. So before we blame the SHSAT, city's resources would be better served by broadening the GNT and perhaps more importantly, providing better information on the programs that do exist. I regularly volunteer at New York City high school fairs and see firsthand how members of some communities, armed with knowledge of every minutia of the specialized programs, while parents from other communities lack knowledge of even the basics of the process, like the date of the test. And I assure you, the love of these parents for their children is no less than any other group. They just don't know the process.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Karimi. I want to ask everybody here, because I know we're all passionate about this issue, whichever side we're on, please do not interrupt the people speaking with applause or boos, okay? Please, no response. If you must clap, wait until the end of the person, or wait until the person finishes speaking, or better yet, wait until the night is over. But please do not respond to the person speaking, whether it be claps or boos. We really want this to be an open forum. Thank you.
In respects to, we're not going to have any booing here, people. This is not what it's about. It's a forum to listen to what you have to say. So we're asking everyone, no matter who you are, what position you're on, to be respectful of diversity of opinion. Okay? You're next, miss. Please, to speak directly to the mic.
Thank you. Good evening, Senator Liu, Senator Jackson. Thank you for holding this forum tonight. My name is Yatin Chu. I am a mother to 2 kids in New York City Public Schools, member-elect to CC1, and a Bronx Science alumnus. For the past decade, and certainly for the past 6 years under Mayor de Blasio, only a mere 25% of our 650,000 Black and Latino students are passing the state test. Rather than fixing K-8, the mayor and the chancellor divert our attention to the 3 schools that impact 2,000 students. In focusing on the 0.2% of the problem, is focusing on the 0.2% of the problem really anything to boast about? I say it's a misplaced priority at best and dirty politics at worst. We need real and bold change to overhaul our K-8 education. Here's my proposal. 1, better education when it counts most. We should add more GNT elementary classes throughout the city so that more of our students of all races can benefit from the accelerated and enriched education early on when it matters most. Putting 2,000 kids from 8th grade into specialized high schools is too little, too late. 2, keep the SHSAT. No one says that auditions are wrong for performing arts programs. The SHSAT is equivalent for STEM talent. Its purpose is to identify those that have talent in math and science so that we can cultivate the future innovators in healthcare, technology, and government. 3, 100% participation. Only 1 in 4 Black and Latino students take the SHSAT due to lack of awareness. This can be easily remedied by having all 8th graders take the test, unless they choose to opt out. 4, more STEM seats. Let's build more great STEM schools so that we're not forced to divvy up the 5,000 seats among the 80,000 8th graders, pitting one group against the other, debating which group is more deserving, which is less represented, on the basis of skin color, home language, income, and where they live. We need more seats. In conclusion, reform is desperately needed in our public schools to address diversity and truly educate our students to their fullest potential. Hold the mayor and the DOE accountable and keep the SHSAT so that all New York City students have the opportunity, not just 7%. Thank you.
I'm calling next, just so that they're in queue, Karen Gang, Michael Hano, Wei Hua Chen, and Lillian Chen, and George Lee. If I called your name, please line up.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Leonard Silverman. I am the co-PTA president of Eastside Middle School. I'm also the co-president of the District 2 President's Council.
And
I am the
will
district.
you talk to us?
Sure, and I am the district. Sure, and I am the District 2 representative on the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. I found out yesterday that I'm a member-elect of the District 2 Community Education Council as well. It's a lot of responsibility. I also want to add that I have 3 children in public school right now. One who is a 10th grader who attends a non-specialized high school. Didn't qualify based on the SHSAT. I have another student who is in 8th grade who will be attending Bronx Science next year. And I have a 1st grader who, if I'm lucky, I will live long enough to see where he ends up in high school. I want to say that the parents of Eastside Middle School voted unanimously to oppose the mayor's SHSAT plan. The District 2 President's Council voted unanimously with over 30 members present, and so over 30 different schools present, to support a proposal by some District 2 CC members to ask the mayor to revamp and go back and redo this proposal. And I also, what I really want to talk about tonight very briefly is I'm really disturbed about the rhetoric that I've been hearing lately that has characterized this debate. I am deeply upset about the fact that I'm hearing things that the DOE is characterized by toxic toxicity, toxic whiteness, and I'm very disturbed at the language that chooses to label anybody who is opposed to the mayor's plan as either a racist or privileged, or using any of those labels. And I think that we need to look and focus on the things that unite us, not divide us. And my mother spent 41 years working for the Board of Education. She believed that education provided an opportunity, and it provided an opportunity to develop and find human potential. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to continue to support these schools and fix the problem. And the only way we can fix that problem is by addressing the cause of that problem, not trying to get rid of the SHSAT, which is just the effect of the problem, which is K through 8 education.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Karen Day. I am
Karen, can you speak directly? Hold the line closer so everyone can hear.
I'm a parent. I'm a parent of 2 daughters who both are alumni of Stuyvesant High School. They did not overlap in years, so I had a long 8 years being involved in the school. They are both went to public school throughout their educational system. The Parents Association in Stuyvesant has long been, since when I started in 2000 there, concerned about the lack of diversity, the lack of representation of Black Latinos kids. It's way overdue for something to be done, seriously overdue. That being said, I do not believe that changing the test, the admission criteria, is the answer. In fact, I believe it definitely is not the answer. I view the mayor's proposal to change the admission criteria for specialized high schools as simply a photo op for the mayor. It is short-sighted and only diverts attention from the real problems in the New York City public schools. A school system that is fraught with inequities and where some communities don't have the advanced and accelerated programs that would help prepare their students to be competitive for entry to specialized high schools. I see a mayor overly concerned with 8 high schools and the relatively small amount of students that his proposal would impact, while he turns a blind eye in finding ways to provide high-quality educational opportunities to all New York City children in every community. Many ideas to address the issue have been put forth by many knowledgeable people. They include such things as providing extra funding for enrichment programs in underserved schools to begin in elementary school, since it is foolhardy to think that waiting until middle school or 8th grade will achieve good results. Requiring that every student take the admissions test unless a parent opts out, and conducting the test during the school day at a local school, so it's not a challenge for those students to take the test. Increasing outreach early on to make students and parents aware of the schools and the admission process, offering free test prep, as well as creating new specialized schools in each of the outer boroughs, something that would expand the availability of high-level educational opportunities for a far greater number of high-achieving students than the mayor's proposal. Thank you.
Is it possible you can hand in that testimony you read from? Joanna, can you get that, please? That will become part of the file. Thank you very much. Next, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
I want to welcome, good evening, Senators. I want to welcome you to my alma mater. My name is Michael Hano. I grew up on 155th Street. Me and both my younger brothers went here for elementary school. I was here first grade through sixth grade. I don't have prepared remarks, but I'll tell you, during the budget cuts, 75 to 76, the lady who was a music teacher for this school became my sixth grade teacher. They gave her a regular class. We didn't get a whole lot of instruction because they still did the music program, so we got a lot of gym classes that year, even though we were supposed to be the IGC class. We were told about this Hunter College junior high school test. It's almost like an afterthought. We just had no preparation, and we went down and took this test. And I didn't do that well because I prided myself on being very good on math. And there was the math section, and then halfway through the test they said, even if you haven't finished it, move on to the verbal. I just kept working on those math problems because I had never been faced with math problems I couldn't do before. As it turns out, we just hadn't been taught that level of math. I didn't get in, but both of my brothers, and a couple of years later, they got a little bit of preparation. They did get in. So I went to junior high school 143, and we had a couple of really special teachers there in the math department. I'm sorry. We had a couple of really special teachers there that did this accelerated math program. They decided that the 7th graders in my class were going to do 9th year math and take the Regents. And then the next year, we skipped 8th grade with that 3-year and 2 thing. 9th grade, we did 11th year math and took the Regents. They also, I'd like to say prepped us, but they drilled us for the Stuyvesant Bronx Science test. Back then it was Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech. And we were sort of told, well, those are science and math high schools, but those were really academic high schools. And I mean, they were not politically correct. They said, listen, you want to go to G-Dubs? No, then you better study. G-Dubs is George Washington, the local high school, because if you didn't get into those schools, that's where you were going. Most of the kids in my class got in. I got a perfect score on everything except vocabulary. Perfect. It's because we were getting some advanced math instruction and because we studied our asses off for that test. The only thing that makes those schools special, and I've worked as a teacher, my dad was a teacher in public high schools, the only thing that makes those schools special is the students that are in them. Not the teachers, not the facilities, it's the students. The test is not perfect, but it's the best way we have now. And there's one other thing. These statistics you have are very misleading. It says how many black students are going in, how many were admitted, but then before that, how many black and Latino students, some of the best black and Latino students we have, are taken out of that pool by programs like Prep for Prep, where they're put into fancy boarding schools to get a free ride.
Sir.
Okay. You have to take that into account.
Next speaker, we ask the speakers when you come up, just identify yourself by your name so that everybody knows who you are, that we know who you are. And please speak to us. We are the ones up here, John Liu, myself, and other state senators and state assembly members are going to address the issue. So please, I ask you to address your comments to us who's holding this hearing. And you can stand there so people can see you, but we not ask you to speak to them, because you're not talking to them, you're talking to us. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I will talk to you, Senators Jackson and you. Thank you very much for holding this. I'm Wei Wan Chen from the President of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York. I want to make several things clear. One is that as Asian Americans, we are a member of this community, and we believe that what is good for the entire community is also good for us. The status quo is not acceptable. The status quo of poor education for wide swaths of this city is an outrage. We spend double the average in this city on our students per basis than the average for the entire country. We spend double the Finnish schools. When people talk about Finland being so great, well, we spend double the amount. So maybe what we should do is cut it in half and maybe we'll do better. But that's not the solution. The solution is trying to get gifted and talented back in all the schools in all the districts for the Black and Latinos because they have lost it. And for 20 straight years, they were the majority of Brooklyn Tech. So the test worked. The test is not the problem. We should be focusing on trying to get all the parts of this city to work and study better. So this test, the changes that are being proposed are racist. They are racist when your Department of Education comes out with these charts and say, we're going to target and cut the Asians by half. Now, you can put it any way you want. The result is that we are targeted. And this kind of discussion, now, it has been more divisive than anything I've heard. When you have this kind of remarks that we've heard in some of these forums, when a child could be in one of the forums, being brought to task by two senators, not for what she said. She did not say anything racist. She was called racist. And then later, for somebody, an adult who was racist, she was not called racist. We have to stop that kind of racism. And the only way to stop it is really by focusing on the real task, which is to educate everybody and stop pitting one group of poor children against another.
Thank you.
Followed by George Lee, Megan Moscott, Jordan Taylor, Marcus Austin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a parent of color, the yellow color. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I have two daughters. One will be a senior at the college, and the younger will be the second graders. And my young daughter took the SHAT last year. He have 3 offers from the special high school, but he gave it up. She gave it up because she thinks special high school is not her best fit. I'm here to support SHAT because I think SHAT is the only fair measure for special high school for our low-income family and working families. And I don't think special high school proposal is the right placement at all. I believe all children have potentials to do well at elementary school, to my opinion. But DOE has to offer the same rigorous curriculum and the professional teachers for all schools. A proud Black mom, Lisa Baton, who spoke on last Friday's forum. She said the same she said it is not the SHAT, it is not the parents. The problem is the poor curriculum for certain schools. That's why the Black and Latino kids can't be well prepared. We all want a diversity school, but special high school proposal is not the right one. The plan looks nice and pretty by number. 7% students from each middle school. Apparently, the current school's GPA is not the same level. I talked with Diamond's former principal, Mr. Zhang, saying getting into special high school is much easier than surviving in the next 2 years. 10% current Diamond's students are struggling to...
Thank you. Can you submit your testimony, please?
Yeah, I would want...
No, we've given you 4 Bs. Come on. Please submit your testimony if you don't mind, and we will take it for the record. Thank you. Miss, give this stuff, please. Thank you. If you have copies that you want us to have, please give it to the staff so they can bring it up to us. Okay? Thank you. Next, please.
George Lee.
And we ask everyone to hold the mic very close to your mouth so everyone be able to hear you. Thank you, everyone, for your cooperation. Do you have testimony for us to have?
My name is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, Jonathan, do you have testimony for us to read?
Yes, I do.
Would you give it to the staff member, please? Please do that, everyone, if you have. Okay, now you may begin, sir. Just speak close to the mic.
Okay, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk here about my research, which has recently been published in the Journal of Women and Minorities in Science and Engineering. I will try to keep it brief and non-technical. If you're the director of admissions for the specialized high school, your goal is to admit students who are most likely to succeed in the schools. How would you predict how a student will do in high school if you know nothing about the student?
Can you hold the mic closer to your mouth?
Okay, you might guess the average freshman grade point average of 88. In some cases, your guess would be a good prediction of how the students would do, but there would be a lot of error. If you use the specialized admissions test, you will reduce the error a little bit. Based on my study, students who entered high school in 2014, you would reduce the error by 20%. The city's meta study showed very similar results. But what about the other 80% of the error? The state achievement tests do better than the Shazat, reducing error by 28%. In my study, I found that 7th grade GPA was far better than either of these, reducing error by 44%. The only possible justification for the current outcomes with respect to diversity would be if the Shazat were a valid criterion, that is to say, a good predictor. But the data show that it isn't a good predictor. If you have better predictors and middle school grades are far better, why not use them? Standards of the American Educational Research Association stipulate that one test should never be the sole criterion of admission. You also want your admission policy to be gender fair. The Shazat has been biased against girls. I don't mean that there are questions about hockey, but there's a statistical bias, and that girls do better in high school than the exam would predict. In my study, on average, girls are in GPAs 4 points better than predicted by the Shazat. That means that many girls are being rejected in favor of boys who are likely to achieve at a lower level in high school. In 2013, 51% of the applicants were girls, but only 44% of those admitted. It's clear that as a sole admissions criterion, Shazat is unfair to girls. It's ironic that tests such as the SAT and Shazat that were designed to provide a uniform metric are less accurate predictors than GPA, which is compiled across different courses, schools, teachers, and standards. When you think about it, that is not so surprising. Those are only 3-hour samples of performance as opposed to a full year of performance across a full range of academic domains. Thank you.
When you hear the speech, if you can conclude, we're trying to be respectful so that you can try to finish what you were talking about. But let's be respectful of the people's understanding that the first people we give everybody the opportunity. We don't have to 4 or 5, okay? That's not fair. Let's be fair to everybody. Okay, next, please, say your name, keep your microphone so everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Moscow, and I want to thank you for hosting this and thank all of you for being here. I think it takes a lot of courage to engage in this conversation and a lot of love. And as I listen, I'm thinking even more that we shouldn't be in a situation where we or our children have to compete for good educational opportunities. I've been a middle school teacher and a high school admissions advisor here in Washington Heights for 8 years. Alongside 8th grade families, I learned that high school admissions, and really all of the DOE systems of school assignment, are overdue for an overhaul. I I think ending the SHSAT is a great place to start. I speak today hoping that my future students and I won't have to spend any more precious learning time navigating systems that ultimately divide us further between haves and have-nots. Our system has enough division, enough labeling, and enough testing. I want to teach in a system without extra exams like the SHSAT. Because these tests, whether we want them to or not, teach students that their multiple choice accuracy is more important, perhaps most important, and even more important than whatever their unique strengths or contributions to the community might be. I'm hopeful for future policy influenced by young people in Integrate NYC and Teens Take Charge, and the work of their adult allies like me in the New York City Alliance for School Integration and Desegregation. I encourage you to do what you can to support the School Diversity Advisory Group's initial recommendations, especially those that recommend the elimination of academic screens and ability-based grouping in our schools. We know that these admission screens, like the SHSAT, regardless of the intention, uphold racial and socioeconomic segregation and hierarchies within our school system. The SHSAT is one of the most problematic tools for this ability-based grouping. And I'm not going to get to say everything I wanted to say, so I'm skimming things. I'll save you the whole thing. I'll end with, I'm certain that all of my students here in the Heights, whether or not they were successful on the SHSAT, are wonderful and worthy. But measurements like the SHSAT continue to undermine all of their sense of worth. And we can't stand for a system that makes any of our students feel less than or that gives them less opportunity.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you, Senators Pugh and Jackson, and George Lee, a parent. We're going to do a phrase of the day today. Today's phrase is to talk out of both sides of your mouth. An example. One side of the mouth says, Asian parent, you are too obsessed over the specialized high schools. There are so many other good schools for your kids. The other side of the mouth says, we must get more black kids into Stuyvesant now.
Can you talk with us, please?
What? Another example. One side of the mouth says, cram schools is rip-off immigrants who pay thousands of dollars for unregistered, unlicensed instructors. They're a scam. That's actually two sides already. Poor immigrants, thousands of dollars. Sorry, this is gonna be a three-sided mouth. The third side says, Asians are only acing the SHSAT because they go to cram schools. Unlicensed, unregistered scam. Acing the test. What? And as an aside, cram schools don't just teach to the test. If that's all they did, kids wouldn't succeed at the most advanced STEM curricula in the city. If that's all they did, teach the test, kids won't succeed at the most advanced STEM curricula in the city. Sorry, this mouth has four sides. It's a really big mouth. I don't know, ask Carranza. The fourth side, yes, Assembly Member, my DOE does run a $5 million test prep program, but it doesn't work. So one side, test prep gets Asians in. The other side, my test prep doesn't work. What? For tomorrow, the phrase of the day is, shoot the messenger. Thank you.
Marcus Austin, followed by Alexander Rodriguez, Fred Arcoleo.
My name is Marcus, and I'm a student at Pace High School. The Little Rock Nine is what I'm reminded of as I walk into this building. A group of color kids then protesting for integration, and a group of color kids now protesting for integration. The Big Apple, one of the most diverse cities in the country, but yet has one of the most segregated school systems in the nation. I can't help but wonder why some of the people in this audience believe that myself and my peers didn't work hard and strive hard enough to make it into the specialized high schools, because the fact of the matter is that we did. The truth is that the SHSAT does not test your ability to solve math problems, but it tests your ability to obtain prep, to have parents that don't have to work 2 jobs to keep food on the table, to be privileged. I always thought that the endless opportunities I get if I lived on the Upper West Side, but I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to be from a wealthy family to be able to succeed in a public educational system. That is not fair. To my fellow brown people, we will get justice one day. To the mayor, do not dare campaign to be the face of the United States when Black and Latinx students in New York City are falling into racially oppressive systems and are being robbed of an education. Don't you dare. And to the people who support the SHSAT, if you are okay with your children benefiting from a system that allows Black children to be snatched from an opportunity, put into schools that resemble jails, and to be excluded based on their race and socioeconomic class, may God have mercy on your soul.
Hold down your applause, because you're all wasting time by doing that. I ask you to please, let's listen to the speakers. Everyone has a right to speak, but please, let's hold down the applause so we can hear and focus on what the hearing is about. Thank you. Please go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. I am Alexander Rodriguez, a Direct Action Fellow at Trinity Charge. It is no longer news that New York City hosts the most segregated school system in the country. So when I come all the way from Brooklyn to debate for an education that was promised to me 65 years ago, I want my demands to be addressed with urgency. Because not only am I frustrated, but so are the parents, the siblings, and the students, and the 96,000 students that attend segregated schools. No more beating around the bush of racism. It is disgraceful that my government is caring more about their image, the politics, and the voices of privileged parents than their own students that the system has failed. I am tired of it. Senators, do your job. Ensure that the 96,000 students don't become wronged because the voices determining policy are voices who don't understand what it's like to have to teach themselves an entire AP bio class. Voices who don't understand what it's like to exhaust your school's curriculum. Voices who do not understand what it's like to be patted down every morning before attending a basic history class. I stand on the shoulders of people like Ernest Green, Elizabeth Eckford, and Joanne Boyce. So I hope that me speaking to you all finally communicates a sense of urgency that is long overdue. So to the parents who propose or believe in the proposal of expanding access to SHSAT tests and expanding GNT programs, I believe these views are short-sighted. Why? Because expanding access to these things does not solve lifelong educational inequalities. I spoke to the Director of Compliance Services at the DOE, and she personally told me that with GNT programs, principals often handpick the 4-year-olds that get into these programs, and a strong determinant to that picking is whether that child has PTA influence. This is preposterous. And just as a side note, since when is it normal for a 4-year-old to be taking a test? Many politicians have spoken to me and my peers at Take Charge, expressing their humble beginnings and claim that this issue is important. But in practice, these same politicians implement policies that do not help and in fact severely harms the people they are supposed to represent. I am only one student, but I am just one example of the many students that you should be listening to and serving. I don't want talk, I don't want to hear how important this is to you, I don't want my compliments on my leadership, I want action. So parents,
please conclude.
yes. Too many parents are determining a child's education, and it's time for us to actually implement the Supreme Court law that was ordered 65 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone give testimony reading from their Android or iPhone, can you email that to the committee if you don't mind? Thank you.
Please, especially the last two gentlemen, email it to us.
All right.
So I won't print it out, I'll read it from my phone.
Thank you. Next, please.
Fred Coleo, follow my Chris Giordano, Flora Wong, and Carol Mulligan.
Sirs, I'd like to say something before I start. Point of order. I read the flyer for this evening, and it was called a Community Speak Out. And I came here, I was also told I have 3 minutes when I signed up online. So I came here, and I hear the 2 minutes, I respect that. But I would like to speak to the audience as well as you guys, and I think it's a Community Speak Out means that people can chime in when they feel something. I'm sorry, I feel very constrained by this kind of courtroom atmosphere.
Right, not a courtroom atmosphere. That's why we ask people to stand back so that we can.
That's what they say in court.
And they can hear you.
Okay, I would like to speak to the crowd as well as you because it's a public community speak out. It said it in the flyer.
Speak out.
It says it in the flyer, community speak out. Can you read your own flyer, please?
You want to speak? Speak.
I'm speaking.
All right.
I've been teaching for 32 years, and I've been 22 years at George Washington campus. And honestly, the campus has gotten worse since I have been there. There's not a white student to be found in that school since I have been in that school. But 5 years ago, in spite of those odds, our school was rated the #1 education option school in the entire city. That means for open admission school, my school, High School for Law and Public Service, was the best. And the reason we were the best is because we had dedicated teachers that took ESL students, that took students with ones on the test, and brought them to a very high level. We had a great team. We've been cut and cut and cut, and we're not able to do that anymore. The school is in a crisis. So this is the state of our school right now. And you, sir, know, Jackson, because we had this campaign for fiscal equity, we never got that money. We never got the money from the budget cuts since the 2008 crisis. We never got those restored. We used to have a Regents Art program in our school. We've had a slew of AP courses. They're canceling AP courses now in my school. That's the situation right now. So trillions, though, are being spent on wars all around the world and on increasing the military budget still by 30, 50 billion a year. They used to say, as an op-ed in the Times 20 years ago, if you want to get rid of the ghetto schools, you got to get rid of the ghetto. We still have ghettos. In my neighborhood, which is being gentrified, this is a big part of what's happening right now in the schools is tied into the major gentrification that's going on across the city, especially in Washington Heights. My students are being driven out of the neighborhood, enrollment is down, people are living in crisis, but they're going to give $3 billion to Jeff Bezos to come to New York City. And that's fine, because he says he doesn't know what to do with all his money, he's going to invest in space. That's the kind of society we live in. It's a profit-driven society that leaves schools like mine and students like mine at the bottom. Until we change that, until we unite and get rid of the division, as many people have said, we're going to be stuck in this system forever. So it might seem like a big pie-in-the-sky thing. We got to get rid of the profit system, because a society that cannot take care of its young people does not deserve to exist. Thank you very much.
Next, please.
Hi, I'm Chris Giordano, PTA co-president at NAMUS 5450 Washington, District 3 Middle School in Manhattan Valley. I'm secretary of the District 3 President's Council Equity Committee. The DOE's Byzantine system of choices, screens, preferences, and priorities is inequitable by design. And rather than fix the inequities they have in their control, the mayor and chancellor are spending their political capital on those 1% of seats in the system controlled by state law established by students who are performing above grade level specialized high schools. Further to the systemic inequities implemented by the DOE, each year parents spend hours trying to understand the selection algorithms and ranking systems and strategies to track down updated information. Just this year, when the DOE allowed Millennium Manhattan to change its admissions priority days before the application deadline, many families were impacted by that. They did not get the information. This coming year, the school system has decided that December 23, Monday, December 23, is a school day. So families are faced, rising seventh grade parents are faced with the choice of going to visit family or having their kid in school on Monday, December 23. If the kid's not there, the chances of them getting into a screen, non-specialized school will be hurt. As for District 3, each year the majority of the district's 1,400 plus 8th graders apply to Okay, as for District 3, each year the majority of the district's 1,400 8th graders apply to the specialized high schools. About half of those applicants, about 300 students, earn specialized high school offers. But if the mayor's 7% quota proposal passes, that number would plummet to about 100. At Booker T alone, the more than 150 typically offered seats would be reduced to 20. Those District 3 students are in the only Manhattan district without admissions priority to any high schools and are restricted from many of the high-quality college prep schools outside of District 3 due to admissions priorities granted to other districts. In short, the specialized high schools are their only option. And in a system where only 5% of the high schools offer a minimum of 4 core STEM AP classes, those students have no alternatives appropriate to their level. At the City Council hearing, the Chancellor admitted that while he prefers multiple measures, he admitted that Shahzad is an efficient way of identifying talent. Looking at the data, it appears the Chancellor is right. The Shahzad schools significantly outperform the top 19 non-specialized with a similar size group of 16,000 students. The Shahzad schools are 180 points higher in SAT scores, their ACT scores are 4 to 5 points higher, they generate 200 national merit semifinalists versus 27 at the non-specialized, and their region scores are more than 7 points higher than the top non-specialized. Regardless, looking at the inequity the DOE manages in the current system, you may have to ask whether the bureaucracy that manages the system with choices, screens, priorities, and preferences should be trusted with those specialized high schools. Throughout history, authoritarian administrations, governed by providing a scarcity of resources and pitting segments of the population against each other to fight over those resources, many in our community see this strategy as a proposal that's a smoke and screen to cover up the administration's inability to deliver more college-prep education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you submitting your testimony? Okay, go ahead. Next.
Okay, Senator Liu, Senator Jackson, thank you for letting me speak. So I'm speaking as a former Stuyvesant High School teacher, as well as the mother of a son who attends the most diverse citywide gifted and talents program, Tag Stars in East Harlem, who just got into Brooklyn Tech. So this is the problem I have with this debate that none of you are addressing. First of all, I think we need to understand that gifted education, along with the specialized high schools, is actually a special needs. Gifted and talented is a special ed program. And what that basically means is that, first of all, it's not meant to have parents. It's unfortunately becomes a program where children of upwardly mobile parents seek to separate themselves from other kids. When it's meant to be a special ed program that's supposed to support children who think differently, in fact, often have what we call asynchronous development. They're advanced in some areas. Sorry? Yeah, of course. They're advanced in some areas, they're behind in other areas. In fact, the original founders of Stuyvesant High School back in the late 1800s, they purposely sought boys that were abnormal in character. There's a document that says that required peculiar training. In the words of a Stuyvesant alum, you don't aspire to go to these schools, you actually need to go to these schools. And the problem is with the insane test prep industry, which is, I'm sorry, it's out of control. If you need to spend that many hours studying for an exam, I'm sorry, it's not the right fit for you. My son asked me, should I study? I was like, look, you got your free program at school, that's it. That's all you need. You're either meant to go there. Did I prep you for the gifted? No, you had 5 minutes of prepping. But what we see in the gifted and talented, which are feeder, is that they actually prep 4-year-olds. 4-year-olds should not be drilled with flashcards. That's one of the problems that we're seeing, and those gifted programs are natural feeders. So what I'm proposing is that we universally screen 4-year-olds for the gifted and talented, because we're losing a lot of Black and Latino kids who could do well, but don't. And I'm also proposing that we, following Senator Bailey's bill, he's actually proposing a pre-SHSAT for 6th graders, as well as gifted and talented universal screening for all 3rd graders before 3rd grade. And offering an RFP to offering RFP for the test prep programs who do understand
submit your testimony?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, please.
Karen Mulligan, Ken Stover, David Ron, and Yuan Shang.
Thank you. I'm Carol Mulligan. My credentials: I'm a mother, a grandmother, a teacher. I taught for 33 years in public schools here in New York City, and then for another 15 years at New York University in the Department of Teaching and Learning. So what have I learned? Quality education is a right for every child. And the way to do that is to provide a quality education in all of our schools. And currently, that is not a reality. Quality education does not separate, but it brings together people. So my point of view is the following. We have a major job to do here in New York City. Our schools, many of our schools, leave much to be desired. We Americans know how to educate. People all over the world use the educational research generated in this country to improve the quality of education in their countries. So my request is a big job. It can't happen overnight. But we must commit ourselves to educating or to providing a quality education for all children. Thank you.
Ken Stover.
You asked for an introduction first? So can I give the introduction before the timer starts? My name is Hans Story. I'm a parent of 2 children in the public schools in New York City.
Okay, you're going to have to speak a little louder so everyone can hear you.
Thank you, yes. Thank you, Senators. The Mayor's and Chancellor's proposal to eliminate the SHSAT will harm the children it claims to serve. It's based on false premises, it's divisive and offensive to all New Yorkers, and will ruin the beacon of academic achievement for all striving New York City children. This proposal is terrible and must be stopped. First, the proposal harms the children it claims to serve. If the object is diversity, then the proposal fails. The SHSAT diagnoses the city's failure to educate through grades K through 8 minorities and underserved New York City communities. The test is not the problem, the failure to educate in K through 8 is. Eliminating the test is a harmful Band-Aid cover-up for failed educational bureaucracy. Raise the bar for all children instead of lowering the bar. Expand PhD programs to all communities. Open more specialized schools. Some as pilots according to quotas and subjective multiple measures admission criteria. Keep the SHSAT. Second, the proposal is based on false premises, is divisive, offensive, and an outrage to all New Yorkers. By calling anyone who disagrees with him a racist, the Chancellor has outraged all fair-minded New Yorkers. By calling the SHSAT racist, he has disparaged millions of students and alumni who have benefited from it. By attacking objectivity in the written word, he proves his hostility to education itself. Who is racist here? In fact, his quota policy targets and discriminates against Asians. His toxic whiteness rhetoric targets Caucasians, and his ideology foments racial division and grievance. This runs exactly contrary to the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr., who famously said, "I have a dream that my children will one day not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Third, the proposal will ruin the beacon of academic achievement for striving children of all races. If the specialized schools are viewed as excellent and desirable, it is the SHSAT that makes them so. The test is the only objective, unbiased, merit-based criterion for admission, blind to race, blind to class, blind to background, blind to connections. For over 50 years, it has worked for generations of striving immigrant and underprivileged children from all races. By eliminating the test and imposing a 7% quota on middle schools for admissions, the proposal ruins this merit-based beacon for achievement in not only the specialized high schools, but also in the top feeder selected middle schools. In summary, the proposal is a terrible policy and must be stop. Keep the SHSA. Thank you.
David Ron, anyone, Sean?
Can you please submit your testimony?
Dennis Yu, Nada Anandar.
Thank you, Senator Liu, Senator Jackson, please my name is Yue Xiang, father of 2 children. My own daughter is in Bronx. I support to keep SAT. Specialized high schools are selective high schools. Selective schools need selection criteria. Among the commonly used selection criteria, standardized test is the most objective and the fairest selection criteria. Others, like recommendations, can easily introduce human bias. Interviews also carry strong personal bias. If as the mayor proposed, use the local middle school's GPA. First, the local GPA lacks the comparability between schools, not only to be used within a school. A in one school is not equal to A in another school, right? And another side effect, a problem introduced by the mayor's proposal is that we'll introduce local internal competition. So within that school, they should be collaborative study learning. If you let them compete a few spots, we are classmates, and now we know we two are compete for that spot. Then that causes the disruption of collaborative learning. That's a big problem. If we think the current SAT scores didn't really reflect the students' ability, we can try to improve it, but not abandon it. We should focus on our effort, put our efforts on making the cake bigger. We should fund more specialized high school. We shouldn't focus on how to cut the cake. We shouldn't take a piece away from one person and give it to another person. Thank you.
Next, Nada Anagar and Sophia Zhang. Yeah, many names that I called before, so it's David Ram, Dennis Yu, Nada Anagar, Sophia Zhang, and Shamini Ramadeep.
Good evening. My name is Denise Yu, and I am from the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families. And I currently work with New York City Asian Pacific American youth who attend a variety of schools. I hear many people say, don't touch the tests, or fix K-8, or give our children the same opportunities to these schools, and it shocks me that parents, are unknowingly fighting to give their children a poor education. I was a test baby who went through that education. I went to these specialized high schools. I tested into all of my schools. And while I can acknowledge the resources afforded to me at these schools, many resources that a lot of other students can even imagine receiving, I also tell people that I would not put my children through those same experiences. So I want to lay out what was the norm for me and continues to be the norm for the young people I listen to every day. They sleep an average of 5 hours per night and commute 1 to 2 hours for school per day. There's rampant drug abuse among students that remains unaddressed or poorly addressed. These schools are breeding an academic culture where being stressed and overworked is normal, where working harder than others means you're not smart, where students say they don't know what they wake up for, and say they'll kill themselves for getting a mediocre grade, where students do attempt and commit suicide every year, where students and teachers can be racist and prejudiced, and where in order to be a good student, it's okay to cheat, bribe, and brush off inappropriate behavior from school staff. And when these students graduate, their education, as rigorous as a number of APs they took has not prepared them to be curious learners, critical thinkers, and pioneers in this larger society beyond the bubble they have lived in. The work ethic they have developed was only to survive in these schools and not to thrive in the larger world, and they have to reconcile with the reality that nobody cares about the specialized high school they attended or how hard they worked. That is the everyday experience for many students, including APA students. But I want our young people to know this is not right or healthy. You do not need to settle for this, and you deserve better. What education do you want? Not what you think will get you into an Ivy League or a six-figure job, what your parents and society have said will help you make it in America, but the education where you are happy, healthy, thriving, and doing what you want to do, and whether what you are fighting for aligns with that. Thank you. Good evening, my name is Nada Almagar, and I'm a junior at
Please, have you submitted the test? Yes. Thank you, appreciate it. Go ahead, please, I'm sorry.
Good evening, my name is Nada Almagar, and I'm a junior at Brooklyn Technical High School. I went to a middle school, IS-187, where the majority of students received and accepted offers to specialized high schools, despite being in a part of Brooklyn where there are not enough middle schools. At IS-187, we enjoyed flight simulators, MacBooks, and a highly motivated student body. But the bubble I lived in left me ignorant to the struggles that many students across New York City faced. I broke this bubble when I met students at my schools who came from schools where they were the only student accepted into a specialized high school. Many people associate students from these schools with the poor work ethic and low motivation to achieve, but they had no knowledge of the SHSAT until a month before the test. The information they did receive was vague and poorly presented, yet they were some of the most high-achieving students at Brooklyn Tech. When schools are not well integrated, we cannot see the potential of students across the city. As a result, our perception is narrowed to a single idea of what other communities look like, one that is built on stereotypes and misconceptions that diffuse quickly because no one is there to correct them. But students capable of excelling academically exist in all parts of the city, yet the student populations of specialized high schools are far from reflecting that. The SHSAT has existed for decades, yet it has continued to exclude some of the brightest students in the city by looking at every student through the same broken lens. It doesn't take into account work ethic, determination to succeed, character, and so many other characteristics that truly represent a student's ability to succeed. When you cite fixed K-8 but not the test, you imply that the SHSAT is an effective way to evaluate students, which has no substantial proof. There is no proof that students who excel on the SHSAT are any more capable of success than students who do poorly. There are so many other factors that can measure a student's ability, and if we began using them, we would certainly see a rise in both geographical and racial representation in specialized high schools. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sophia. I grew up in China. I immigrated here when I was 15 as a mid-year freshman. I then intentionally chose to attend a diverse high school. What I mean by diverse is not about race, but also gender, ability, and socioeconomic. I'm grateful that when I first came here without knowing how to speak English, my classmate was so willing to help me. We got to know each other by sharing our different stories, ethnic backgrounds, my learning experiences in China, or their family stories. My teachers would stay after school just to teach me again the lessons we have learned in class, making a connection with my culture and sometimes learn Chinese from me. I feel safe, I feel respected, I feel I belong here. Such a diverse and inclusive school provides a healthy learning environment for me. Once, I had a conversation with my friend who is from Stevenson High School. We learned that their schools are dominated by white and Asian and lack of diversity and integration. She talked about how she feels like living in a bubble around the same type of people. She has a friend with some black students instead, and she told me how her friends always feel not belong to school and question themselves often. I learned that one specialized high school has a sociology classes that I have been wanted for a long time. And she has so many clubs and activities and opportunities I was craving for. I learned that there are more than 400 high schools, yet resources are concentrated in a small portion of them. I learned that New York City, which is known for its diversity, has the most segregated school system. The current New York City education system doesn't narrow the inequality gap, but excludes students with socioeconomic disadvantages and exacerbates segregation due to the distribution of resources and inequitable grade system. According to the city, roughly 190 of the 830 middle school and high school screen all of their students. What is the selection criteria? By one single test, a number that defines a child by the moment and takes students' curiosity out of learning, and tells the society that there's only one single way to measure a person. If test isn't the standard, let's think about what it means to be a good student. What education means to you. What education means to us shouldn't just be about getting into a good college or look good in your transcript. It's about developing into a whole person. It's about learning for the sake of learning. Sometimes it's wrong when we take the test as a single measurement in high school admission process. With the split system in the admission process, how can students who are underserved and left behind since a young age, students who can't pay for the test prep, students know that they would not have equal chances as others exert their potentials? Thank you.
Shanli, Kristen Berger, Anna Minsky, Vicky Zhang, and Allison Schilling Ward.
Hello, Senator Liu, Senator Jackson. My name is Sharmali Ramujit. I am a newly re-elected member of the Community Education Council for District 3. This is the district that has been cited as the most segregated school district in New York City's school system. So what I present to you today is testimony on my personal behalf and does not represent the views of our council as a whole. I did not grow up in New York City public schools. I grew up in Florida. My parents are from Trinidad. Neither of them graduated from high school. When they believed in public school education, they sent me to various public schools. I was an Army brat, so I traveled around. In one school, I was considered gifted. In another school, I was not. Then I moved again, considered gifted again. An interesting experience to have. When I was in middle school, the high school that I ended up going to was an international baccalaureate school. So I attended a school which qualified me for the diplôme and is considered one of the programs that makes you college ready as a student. Did I know that? No. Would my parents have known that? No. If there had been a test to get into that program, would I have passed it? I don't know, maybe not. I ended up going to Columbia University. I have a biomedical engineering degree, and what that means is I've been trained to look at patterns. Look at patterns and understand how to predict what future measures those patterns can give us. So in this area of education, I would like to state that the Shazad is a test that perpetuates structural racism. All you have to do is take a look at the results of a test that says students, that screens out a vast majority of a particular demographic. And I will just close and say that in my experience, my children are being raised to understand that social emotional and diversity is of the utmost importance to prepare them for the future. And parents who had their children advance in a privileged school setting, they feel like they did their children a disservice by not exposing them to diversity.
Hi, thank you, Senators. I already submitted my testimony. My name is Anna Minsky. I'm a member of the Community Education Council of District 5 in Central Harlem. So I'm speaking here not just on behalf of myself, but on behalf of the elected parent community in District 5. We passed a resolution unanimously in January in response to the mayor's plan for eliminating the Shazad, and the resolution was in support of his proposal and suggested that he could even go further in increasing access to a wider variety of schools in New York City, but certainly it is important to eliminate or to repeal Heck Calandra so that integration efforts can proceed in the city. And I'll just read a little bit from our proposal, from our resolution. CEC 5 recognizes that the underrepresentation of Black and Latinx students in specialized high schools is the result of systemic racism and white supremacy. As Jamal Bowman has written in the Daily News, parents across this country, including in progressive New York City, have a long history of not wanting to send their children to attend schools with Black children. The current system is just a reflection of the disproportionate power wielded by those parents.
Vicky Zhang, Allison Schilling-Ford.
Good evening. My name is Vicky Zhang, and I'm a sophomore at the Bronx High School of Science. So I'm going to tell you about my story of getting into Bronx Science. I prepped for 3 years to get into Bronx Science, and then I retook the SHSAT to try to get into Stuyvesant. I did not get into Stuyvesant because I'm in Bronx Science right now. So I learned from that prep that it's more about will than it is about prep. Because some preps, they really just don't help, and it really determines how much will you have in to prep for the specialized high school test. I want to move on to a quote by Kenneth Chu, and he said, he never had this problem when Stuyvesant was all white. He never had this problem when Stuyvesant was all Jewish. All of a sudden, they see one too many Asian and they go, hey, this isn't right. So the SHSAT has become a racial Olympiad, and this isn't what it should become. We shouldn't be blaming the SHSAT, but rather just blame the system, because it starts from elementary. And I want to talk to you about my middle school, which was Lab Middle School. So in Lab, I would say at least 50% of the kids from my middle school got into a specialized high school. If Mayor Bill de Blasio's plan had passed when we were in middle school, a lot of us wouldn't have had the chance to attend a specialized high school. I want to leave you with this final thought today. The test isn't the problem, the system is. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Allison Schillingford, and I'm the founder and executive director of Navigate the Maze to Achievement, an educational nonprofit that prepares Black students for the specialized high school admissions test. For the specialized high school admissions test, and supports them academically and socially while they're in high school. We are currently preparing our third cohort for the Shazam. Experience has taught me that the test is not the problem, the test is not racist, and Black and Latino students are not less intelligent or capable. The problem is that Black and Latino students are not being taught the level of algebra and geometry that they need to pass the Shazam. Grammar was added to the Shazam, but is not being taught in schools, at least not in the schools in my community. At NTMA, we do not conduct test prep, we teach. Every Saturday during the spring semester and 6 weeks during the summer, we teach our students algebra, geometry, how to read word problems analytically. We teach grammar and how to annotate nonfiction, fiction, and poetry. We help them overcome their dependence on calculators and reference sheets, as well as to stay focused during the time test. As a result, our program, 35% of NTMA students receive offers to specialized high schools this year, compared to 4% of Black students, 28.5% of white students, 51.1% of Asian students. To put this into perspective, 1 in every 27 Black students that receive an offer to specialized high school is an NTMA student. Black students made up 23% of all 7th graders citywide, and about 14% of all 7th graders citywide who scored 3 and higher on the state math EL exams. It is from this pool of students, those who have demonstrated the aptitude and attitude to pass the Shazam, that we need to tap into and teach the subject matter. I'm aware of the Dream and Discovery program provided by the NYC DOE. The city needs to reassess the qualification for this program to ensure a more diversified, specialized high school population. And so a Black student whose guardian is a social worker and misses the cutoff by 4 points is not currently eligible for the Discovery program due to income limitations.
13 more, but there's about 23 more, so I'm going to ask that we all respect the time.
Thank you. I will be quick. I'm Kristen Berger. I'm an alumni from Bronx Science. I'm a parent in District 3, and I'm a member of the Community Education Council in District 3. I speak tonight just personally and not for the council, but I represent my concerns as a parent in the district and as part of a community that goes from 59th Street to 123rd Street. I don't need to review with you the astounding statistics around Black and Latino students in our specialized high schools, nor the absurdity that the admissions to 3 New York City high schools is legislated at the state level. What I would like to talk about, though, is how this has rolled out in my community. I commend you for holding another one of these hearings, but I want you to be well aware of the voices in the room and how difficult it is, and how difficult it is even at a local level in one district, looking at how we can include all the voices. Because this change is very dramatic, it has set off a lot of alarm. And as you know, alarm is a great motivator. If you're alarmed and you're nervous, you will get out there and you will speak. But what I'm striving to do is capture the people who might not even know to be alarmed, might not know that the specialized high schools are an option, are on the table, are part of the process. So my little quick, less than 2-minute speech is just to be cautious that you really are aware of the wide range of opinion, even in a district like the Upper West Side and Southern Harlem. Thank you.
Followed by Ray McKenson, Vito Labella, Gail Foster, Jeffrey Ruth, Debbie Meyer.
Hi, everybody. It's going to be brief, and I hope shocking. I went to Stuyvesant. I graduated in 1954. I don't call myself African American. You can't figure out I'm African, that's your problem. I call myself black. Once you say black, everybody gets like that. I get on the subway and I say, everybody loves dark-skinned sex, but they don't want a dark-skinned baby. Everybody goes to the next car. Okay, I know your father. Come see me where your father used to sit. You know where that is. Robert Rudd. This is all I want to say. How many Dominicans are here? Isn't that a shame? We call this, our age group, we call this little Dominican Republic.
Sir,
huh?
Talk to us, please.
Oh, no, I'm talking to everybody. Come in. This is what I want to say. Call yourself Dominican. When I came up, Latino. You know who's Latino? Italian.
Talk to us.
You're not no Latino. Say I'm from Dominican Republic background. That makes me Dominican. I'm Puerto Rican. I was here before the Dominicans. I just saw a film of Robert Kennedy. And I never saw the film before. King Jr. just got shot. 2 months later, pow, he got shot. And I noticed he said thank you. At this rally, he said thank you. The black community. He didn't say African American, he said black. Y'all know who you are. Everybody else want to be you, but they haven't paid the price. And then he said Mexican Americans. And the whole country, as far as I'm concerned, is their country. Any indigenous, Mexicans, Florida, Seminole, I'm Cherokee. And I'm part of black. That's all you gotta know. Everybody come from black. But you want to be in denial, but you want to play.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is, when young, I've been teaching culture. And I went to Stuyvesant, so I can go in the corporate world. I don't want to go in the corporate world. I'm the corporate world.
Thank you, sir.
You got me? Yeah, I'm the corporate world.
Thank you.
Young people, thank you. Young people walk up to me and say, listen, you remember me? You said if you don't play tambora, you're not Dominican.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gail Foster. I operate a Mandarin immersion nursery school called Morningside Play Care Immersion. I'm a former New York City Public High School social studies teacher and high school administrator, and I'm a parent of a former public and private school student here in the city. I would like to make 4 points about diversity, and I don't think we're giving diversity enough play here in this discussion. Number one, diversity in the classroom in high school is essential to the quality of our civic life. 2, high school social studies and science classes benefit from diverse ideas and perspectives. 3, the entire school culture of a diverse high school serves our democracy and future peace in our country. 4, current demographics at specialized high schools undermine the critical value of diversity. Our country is desperate for different cultures to come together and know one another. 3 points about systemic racism in this debate. It is good that so many people on all sides of this debate acknowledge the root cause of disparity as systemic racism. It is bad and unfair to ask today's Black children to wait until adults and politicians resolve this most stubborn of all American social problems before they can have a chance at our specialized high schools. Read Martin Luther King's book, Why We Can't Wait. I would like to make 4 recommendations. Number 1, expand access by, number 1, setting aside seats for African Americans and Latinos. Number 2, using multiple modes of assessment. 3, assuring every public middle school can send its top students. And 4, creating more seats so that Asian Americans can continue to benefit from these schools, but in a healthy, diverse environment that will make them better citizens and make us a better city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. My name is Vito Cabella. I am the current PTO president of the Christopher McAuliffe School. We sent 200 of 300 8th grade students to specialized high schools in District 20. I'm also a CEC 20 elect. I found out last night, so I want to continue. Thank you. So before I leave in a few minutes, so I want to please encourage you first to oppose the bill that is currently in front of you, or the proposed bill about the SHSAT, and to support the bill for the gifted and talented expansion. I'll submit my testimony as well as letters from middle schools to support these 2 things. But since I'm going to go off script for a second, and I'm going to talk to you about my grandmother and my mother, a long time ago, they needed a place to stay. And the people who were privileged and powerful at the time didn't want to rent to them because they were dirty Italians. And my grandmother took my mom by the hand, walking up and down the streets of Brooklyn, trying to find someone to rent them an apartment. And I think about my mother and grandmother when I have an Asian mom come to me in my role as PTO president with her little girl by the hand and say, Vito, why are they doing this to me? Why is the mayor doing this? What can we do? So yes, I'm standing out to help them because that breaks my heart. But I also hear that there were 2,600 Black kids who scored 4 or better on the math and the ELA and didn't get offers to specialized high schools. And that pisses me off too. There shouldn't be an either or. We have to fix this. Senator Lieu, when you were controller, you did an audit. So you know that multiple measures has issues. 8% of the kids accepted to screen high schools weren't eligible. Whose kids were those? And what can we do to increase the number of seats in this city so that everybody who would do well in these schools, everybody who wants to go to one of these schools, has a seat in one of these schools? Thank you very much.
Good evening, Senators. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jeff Wu, and like my well-spoken colleague before me, I'm an educator in an organization that helps students accomplish their academic goals outside of school time. We provide free Common Core aligned and therefore SHSAT aligned enrichment to 600 families from across New York City. These families are comprised of all races, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all walks of life. The only requirement is that the students show up regularly, do their homework, and work hard. What we do is help students catch up on what they may have missed in class. What we're doing isn't any secret sauce. We can't wave a magic wand and get students into a specialized high school. What we can do is help students master the concepts underlying the Common Core and therefore the test. This benefits students for the SHSAT and well beyond. It's hard to say, hardly a stretch to say that algebra and reading skills are important to a successful life. Attending after-school enrichment, whether paid or otherwise, doesn't guarantee a seat in a specialized high school. What it does do is give students the opportunity to learn what may have been missed, and what it does do is give students the framework to unlock their own potential. Our program exists because of perceived inequality in our education system. What we should focus on, instead of scapegoating the test, is improving the quality of education at all stages of life. What we should do is, instead of focusing on our animus on the test, is to expand the number of seats in our specialized high schools. Our program exists because of perceived scarcity. If we can eliminate that scarcity, and if we can improve quality, we can improve outcomes, we can improve diversity at the same time. Thank you very much.
Vito Labella, Morris, Shannon Just, Raymond Stout David, Mal Marmer.
Senators. My name is Debbie Meyer. I am the parent of an 8th grader returning to public high school. I am one of the founding members of the Dyslexia Plus Task Force, and I am a political community scholar. While this debate continues over whether to keep the Shashat entrance exam, there are larger forces keeping Black and brown students out of New York specialized high schools that must be acknowledged. Segregation in our elite schools is a symptom of many issues, most notably weak reading. On the National Assessment of Educational Progress, less than 40% of 8th graders are scoring proficient enough to take this test. Until I had a son who struggled reading, I always thought public education was a bootstrap and a silver bullet that could reduce inequality and promote equity. I thought all schools could teach reading. Isn't that the minimum when we drop our kids off at school in the morning? But if education were a bootstrap or a silver bullet, we would not allow so many students to flounder in reading. Struggling students disconnect from school and never reach their potential. They become statistics rather than leaders. Their frustration can spark mental health issues, sometimes as early as grade school. Without very resourceful parents, they are more likely to experience child abuse, become homeless, or enter the criminal justice system, where the illiteracy is 80%, 50% due to dyslexia. My son almost became one of them. Fortunately, we had the resources, money, time, and knowledge to make sure he got the instruction he needed. But it came at a high price tag. Tens of thousands of dollars from our family's pocket and more than $200,000 from taxpayers. That could have been spent to teach public teachers how to teach the science of reading. We know struggling readers do not lack intellect or curiosity, yet far too many of them lack teachers who know about the cognitive science that teach children how to read. They lack exposure to teachers who have the tools to teach them to crack the code of written English. So, my once illiterate 4th grade son left public school to find the proper instruction. Now he's an 8th grader at the Windward School. Next year, he's going to Bard Early College High School. We want all kids to have such options. Thank you.
Thank you.
At Albany's Capitol, I personally met with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who recounted to me his father's important and fitting for our discussions words. As a little boy, Senator Kennedy told little Bobby these 4 words, and I quote, "People in power lie." De Blasio's Qurans is lie number 1. The SHSAT test is not a valid test because it is not aligned with the Common Core curriculum. The SHSAT test has in fact been validated by a formal 2013 study commissioned at de Blasio's request, yet kept secret from the public's eye for 5 years, and in 2017 was yet again completely aligned with New York Common Core curriculum, which is taught to all of our New York City public school children. The SHSAT study found, and I quote, "a strong positive predictive relationship with student achievement during the first 2 years of high school, measured by grades, scores on advanced placement tests, and Regents exams." So why can't the Black and Hispanic children score high enough on these 2 different yet both completely aligned with Common Core curriculum exams? Let me be very clear here. Black and Hispanic children didn't all of a sudden get dumb, because they aren't dumb. To the contrary, as clearly evidenced by Brooklyn's 2,000 Black children and some 500 to 1,000 Hispanic children in tech, a 75% majority during the 70s and 80s. Today's Black children and Hispanic children cannot score high enough on the SAT exam and the New York State Math and ELA test scores because they have been done a horrendous miscarriage of justice and been failed by past and present mayors, chancellors, politicians, by their removing of the special programs gifted and talented. All New Yorkers should be outraged at the feeble attempt in blaming the SCHAT test as a scapegoat. De Blasio and Carranza want to eliminate the SCHAT test and put in its place principal recommendations, subjective school grades, school projects, etc. This is ridiculous and should never, ever be permitted. An A in one school is the equivalent of a B in another. I want to personally thank New York's elected public advocate, Jumaane Williams, a Black man, who, unlike the bill's sponsors, Assemblyman Charles Barron, represents all New York City children. It was pathetic to watch Barron chide Williams personally by saying, and I quote, "The public advocate is not supporting a bill that's going to get us, meaning Blacks, from 9% to 45%. Shame on you, Barron," said to Williams, to boos from the crowd. This is racism at its finest, and I call it out. Mr. Williams stood tall to Barron, and again I quote, "Unlike yourself, Barron, I represent all of New York City's children."
You have to conclude, sir.
I will conclude. I am presenting something that I think can provide access to everyone without pitting the Asian community and the Black and Latino community. Don't pit 2 races, Asians and whites, Blacks and against Latinos. Keep the SHSAT test.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to conclude or we'll cut off the mic. And no one has authority to put anything up against our time. That's right.
You are disrespecting all the other speakers. You have a testimony.
Yes, we want your testimony. Submit it. Submit it. Summarize. Everyone has to summarize. You have to be respectful of the time limitation. And please, no one put signs up here. If you have something to show, show it. But don't block our sign. We have an order in here so everyone can be respected. That's what we want.
Except for this gentleman. He's more important than everybody else in this auditorium.
Please go ahead.
My name is Sharon Chest, and I'm PA co-president, SLT chair, and a parent of 3. I've listened to both sides of this issue over the past year, and I'm here to present a possible path forward to meet everyone's needs. I'm on the D3 high school committee, and we combined DOE demographic, high school directory data, test results, city-state ranking for all New York high schools. The Shashat schools enroll around 15,500 students, so I grouped them to compare to the top 19 non-specialized, which enroll 16,000, using various admission methods. Purely on an academic basis, and not looking at demographics, the Shashat schools significantly outperform the top 19 non-specialized. They score 180 points higher on the 1600 SAT, 4 to 5 higher on the ACT, 7 higher on the Regents. Unless you think the top non-specialized schools, Nest, Eleanor Roosevelt, are failing to teach their children, that means the students selected solely via Shashat perform better academically than the children selected via mixed admissions. The question of Shashat should not be framed as get rid of the Shashat because other things predict performance better. That's just not correct. The question is whether the Shashat misses students who could otherwise have performed at those levels. The status quo is not acceptable because it has led to Shashat schools under-enrolling Black and Hispanic children. The DOE proposal is not acceptable because a child at 99th percent and 2 years ahead in math, but third in their 30-person homeroom, gets left out of an option to attend a specialized high school. And importantly, when they look at their options, there are only 5% of New York high schools that offer at least 4 of 5 AP STEAM classes: biology, chemistry, physics, calculus. I'm a Georgia Tech alumna and engineer. In April, the Georgia Tech president said, if you haven't had algebra in 8th grade and calculus and physics in high school, you're not getting it to Georgia Tech. And furthermore, it's AP calculus and AP physics. New York is woefully underprovided in high-quality STEAM schools. When people say the solution is to make all schools better, the problem is that 85% of the schools are below the U.S. average SAT, and their size is 500 kids. That's 100 seniors. You can't stick AP physics in that class, in that school, with one kid. You are shutting the door to schools like Georgia Tech and MIT. We have got to expand the number of seats, and I've laid out a detailed approach that lays it from 15,000 to 20,000 using facilities already owned by the DOE. I have data tables, calcs, all of it laid out in 20 pages.
Thank you. Vito Lavella, Board of 16, Raven, Mal Moran, Ming Wan.
Senators Lowe and Jackson Lowe, thank you for having me here. My name is Maud Barrett, and I'm a public school parent. I'm a public school parent of 4 children in elementary and middle school, and one who will graduate high school in 2034. So I'm in it for the long haul as a public school parent. I'm the newly re-elected member and current vice president of Community Education Council District 2, which is the largest school district in our city, and I've heard from hundreds of parents in that capacity who oppose the mayor's plan to scrap the SHSAT. We passed a resolution asking you to oppose this plan. I, like all New Yorkers, want to see real integration in all of our schools, not just the specialized high schools, and this plan doesn't accomplish that. A plan that addresses 8 high schools out of over 400 doesn't come close to addressing the real integration needs we have in our schools. In District 2, we have, the plan also doesn't do anything to address the need for more specialized high schools and more STEM-focused high schools for all of our students. In District 2, we have 19% of kids on average going to specialized high schools, and this plan cuts that number down to 7% without doing anything to create comparable education options for those children who will be shut out of this kind of education. And so I ask you to oppose this plan because all parents deserve to have a seat at the table and have conversations about how this plan impacts their children and how we can do better to provide more specialized high school and STEM-focused high schools for children who are looking for them. And I would also say that I just want to comment on what someone said earlier about this being somehow gender biased towards girls. Specialized high schools are actually some of the most gender balanced high schools in our city of our selective high schools. They're about 55% boys in a system that is 52% boys. In our district, the most preferred screened high schools tend to be 65 to up to 70% girls. Now that's gender bias for you. So switching to the mayor's plan cuts out an extraordinary number of bright boys who simply don't have other options in the school system. And that is evidence of a rushed plan that wasn't well thought out and wasn't well considered by the mayor, and I ask you not to enact that plan. Thank you.
David. I'm a teacher in Washington Heights, and I wanted to speak about how I had the opportunity to attend a diverse high school and the opportunity to attend the diverse City College of New York, and how that opportunity led to me having further opportunities to participate in a vibrant African American culture club and attend a rigorous African American history class. It also provided me the opportunity to have one of my close friends who is Latino talk to me about being brutalized by the police, and I actually learned about that firsthand. It had presented me with the opportunity to see military recruiters targeting my Black and Latino classmates, and I think that's an opportunity we shouldn't overlook. It's right, but many of you are saying that we're fighting over crumbs. That's absolutely true. We are fighting over crumbs when we're just thinking about a tiny fraction of the schools. But it is important to fight the structural racism, whether it's at those tiny portion of schools or at where we're talking about all the schools in the system. And I just want to say that the reason we're fighting over these scraps is because we live in a system that puts profit before people, that puts profit before our students, that puts profits before our children. And whether that means spending millions and millions and millions on war, or that means spending pennies on our kids, that's what that system means. Thank you.
Senators, my name is Mimi Huang. I'm a longtime resident of Manhattan. I think New York City is the greatest city because it's diversity, with diversity of different ideas, diversity of state-of-the-art talents, and diversity of different work ethics, hard work. Education needs a long-term investment, not a short-term gain for someone for political gain. I urge you as our senator to save our quality STEM education, and also to keep the test, because it is simple, it's incorruptible, and it's unbiased. The specialized high school, as you know, has been shown success in educating future STEM talents, and that's what we need for a brighter future for New York City. And New York City is also very fortunate to have public schools that tailor to special needs. I think, like the other speakers, STEM-focused kids are special needs kids. Just like if you aspire to be Broadway star, you don't go to STEM schools. You go to LaGuardia, you go to Frank Sinatra School of Arts. So special needs school for STEM is that they need the right skills, such as multivariate analysis, such as quantum mechanics. They need the right teacher. They also need academically similar minded peers to collaborate with. So I would say that the single unbiased test has shown that provide the future, the STEM successful STEM talents for over a century. So if it's not broken, that's nurtured, that's growing, that's not breaking. What is broken though? What I think is, for example, in the Bronx, you have 74% of kids that fail the proficiency test on the math. However, 87% of kids pass the math course. So that's a disaster, catastrophe waiting to happen. And the mayor and the chancellor will not be there to take the consequences. So instead, we must fund better schools, more GMT schools, and also more after-school programs in a safe environment. So I urge you to keep the test, to increase the education funding, and in underserved neighborhoods, and to vote for the city's future. Thank you.
Hi, Senators. Long night, hard work. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Lainey Heemson. I'm the Executive Director of Class Size Matters. No other school district in the entire country bases admissions to any one of their schools on the basis of one test alone. No other district in the entire country except for New York City, where we pride ourselves on supposedly being progressive. Moreover, this practice has long been opposed by the American Psychological Association, the National Council on Measurement and Education, the American Education Research Association, all of whom standards say any decision about a student's continued education should not be based on the results of a single test, but should include other relevant and valid information. To make things worse, the Shazam is an invalid and biased exam. While nearly all of the discussion and debate throughout the city has been focused on the racially disparate results, I would like to mention again John Taylor's research, which shows conclusively that it's a highly biased gender test. Girls do better on the state test, they get better grades, and yet they do far worse on the Shazam. With the gender gap of 8 percentage points. At Stuyvesant, it's a gender gap of 12 percentage points. The fact that it's biased against girls has been conclusively proven by John Taylor's research, who also found that, on average, a student's 7th grade grade point average is the most predictive factor on how well they will do at the specialized high schools. The most predictive factor, far more predictive than the Shazam scores. Now, if we really want more diverse, integrated schools throughout our system, I'm not going to have the chance to finish tonight. I'm not going to go any further, but you have my testimony as well as an op-ed that Shino Tanakawa and I did about how we need diverse schools, integrated schools, but also smaller classes in order to make sure that the achievement gap is narrow, because otherwise this would just lead to more tracking within schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Roberts, Jerome Kramer, Dalier, Jorge Morales, Joy Wake.
Hi, I'm John Roberts. Thank you for having me. I just want to address something different. I don't have a written testimony. I just want to address what was just said. John Taylor's research as well. John Taylor's research is predicated on using grades, basically freshman grades in high school, as the outcome measure, as the dependent variable, as a measure of high school achievement. And the grades are not the only measure of high school achievement. Grades are polluted with many things like grades have, you get a good grade if you're the teacher's pet, if you're likable, if you've got good personality. And it's been shown in other research that grades, in fact, are biased against boys because a lot of boys don't behave very well. And girls tend to. Anyway, what I want you to do is I want you to please look at the Metis Associate study because it doesn't just consider grades as the output variable. It also considers tests as well, because tests are also a good measure of how kids are doing. It's an objective measure, and it's a much more objective measure. So just don't take the research about grades and John Taylor's study. I encourage you to look at other studies before making a decision. Thank you very much.
If you or anybody has studies that speak to the validity of these tests, please email us.
Hi, Senators. Thanks for taking the time and making this happen. So I'm a parent in a District 3 middle school that has, for years now, had the earned good fortune of sending a lot of kids to the specialized high schools, and one of them last year was my son. He's at Bronx High School of Science, and so that is my perspective, admittedly. But as a parent advocate and a leader, I'm co-president of the PTA at Booker T, and I worked with the CEC High School Committee, and I helped on the middle school committees. I've watched this debate play out, and I've seen a lot of other perspectives. And I can say, for one thing, as has been brought up before, District 3 has the perspective of being particularly disadvantaged if the path to the specialized high schools is shut down, because there are simply no good, academically rigorous college prep high school seats available in the numbers needed for kids coming through. And the point I want to make is that's a problem across the city, and it gets at the heart of what I believe is the most important element here, which is that this system that's been proposed is an academic, a politically developed solution. It's not an academically focused solution. We need to find a way to fix a system that's broken to provide great education for kindergartners, a great education for all New York elementary school kids, a great education for all New York City middle schoolers, so that the high school system will follow naturally, and you will have great, across the board, high school seats available for all New York City high school students. We are assuming that these resources are so limited that they have to be moved around and made to look like we're fixing one group at the expense of another. It's damaging, it's divisive, and it can't be the way we go forward. There must be ways to fix the systems across the board. Thank you.
Brian Mangan, Matt Gonzalez.
Thank you, Senators. Thank you, Senator Dowie. I belong to Queens, residents, and Boston region. Tonight is the night we have a proposal. We have a proposal to fix demographic imbalance in terms of specialized high school with ideas and imaginations, because dealing with the long-time complicated problems, issues, you need ideas, you need imaginations. What's the ideas? You need imaginations. Adding majors in specialized high school. Establish science, liberal arts, engineering, healthcare, AI, sports science, you name it. And then last but not the least, political science to the specialized high school. Then, sports science major can give the consideration of athletical skills to those who have significant performance in their middle high school or elementary school. Still, a one-time examination, but we include our major items so that the specialized high school can welcome more students who have special talents. Everybody knows 8 or 9 specialized high schools are far from enough for the nation's largest public school system, which have 1.1 million students. Therefore, we suggested Stuyvesant, Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, the Staten Island. By the same token, Bronx Science will have the 5 model locations. Bronx Science may change its name to New York City Science High School if they like to do that. Why we say that? Specialized high school by name should be special. Not with only the old-fashioned science and social study or by rankings. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, Senators. My name is Jorge Morales. I'm part of the Teen Sick Charge. I'm the former policy director for Teen Sick Charge. I've been advocating for this admissions plan before the mayor announced it. I worked and advocated for the plan that was originally developed by the Community Service Society and with proper data and research about the benefits of this plan. Now, that does not mean that I completely agree with this. In reality, I believe all specialized high schools should not exist. However, this plan begins to institute the equity that the public school system owes the Black and Latino students, and it ensures that the Asian community does not have to spend the scarce resources that they have in ensuring that their kids have the best education possible. Again, these schools should not exist. There should not be a public high school with a robotics team and a pool, in a system that has a high school with overcrowded classrooms and is lacking resources. These are public high schools that should be benefiting the public, not just the rich and the ones that have the privilege of having test prep. People say that the test is the best measure, but in reality it's not. Ivy League universities do not solely look at the SAT and SAT scores of a student. They look at the student as a whole. This test does not do that. On the other hand, GPA is a measure that can look at the work ethic of a student. If you are working hard to be in the top 7% of your class, then you should be reserved a seat at these top high schools. Now, no one is saying that the plan is perfect, and nothing's going to be perfect. But we have to push for equitable measures that are going to be benefiting everyone in this public school system. That's all I have to say. I hope that you can reach out to students that are being directly affected by this proposal. I work with Teen State Charge. We hope that we can connect and you can come over and talk to us. Talk to the students that are being affected by this issue. About 70% Latino and Black. This is something that needs to be discussed with students as well. And I don't see a lot of that here in this forum.
Brian Mangan, Matt Gonzalez.
Senator Liu, Senator Jackson, nice to see you guys again. Thank you for doing this tonight. It's been a long meeting. I'm going to keep this quick, just 2 quick points. I'm the vice president of my local Democrat club. I'm also a Stuyvesant High School graduate, very proud. I'm going to speak only about 2 things. The Stuyvesant test gave me a fair shot at opportunities that would not have been available to me. A lot of people are being left out of the narrative here. Both of my parents were working class. I was the very first in my entire family to go to college, and I did very poorly in junior high school. I did not have the mind for school. I was in a gifted and talented elementary school, and then after that, when junior high school came around, I did poorly. I did not know what a good student looked like. I had no one to guide me. I did not take the test prep. Getting into Stuyvesant was a lifeline for me, and it's a lifeline for a lot of other smart students that don't have the opportunities and are not getting the education they deserve in their local schools. My best friends at Stuyvesant were first-generation Chinese, first-generation Puerto Rican, a kid from the Bronx with a single mom, and a girl from Ukraine, and these kids got the opportunity that they deserved. The second thing is that I understand there is a desire to make the schools look more like our amazing city, but as many have pointed out here tonight, this is just going to make things worse. Not only is ditching the Stuyvesant test not necessarily going to lead to a better prepared student body, it's not necessarily going to fix the education overall. It's only going to affect 5 high schools out of 400. It has a huge systemic side effect. Every time the results come out, people are shocked. People say this is a horrible thing. We need to fix our schools. If we do this, if we get rid of this test, we're going to be taking the batteries out of the smoke alarm and calling it job well done. Stuyvesant was once too Jewish, now it's too Asian. It's always going to be something, and it's always going to exclude our underprivileged communities in New York City who deserve a fair shot. So I would ask you to reject the legislation. Thank you.
Followed by Tiffany Chen, Charlie Babuska, Ben Hong, I think, Yingfang Chen, James Doyle, and Mayona Zhang, and that is it.
Good evening. My name is Mike Gonzalez. I'm an Inwood resident and constituent of Senator Jackson and an advocate for integration. I'm also the director of the School Diversity Project for a nonprofit called New York Appleseed, and I'm also a member of the city's School Diversity Advisory Group. Today I will be speaking as a resident and for New York Appleseed. So New York Appleseed has long focused on systemic issues of segregation and equitable admissions in the New York City system. We support the elimination of the Shazat as the sole means of evaluation for the specialized schools as part of a systemic approach to the entire school system. Much like we support that along with 70% of New York City residents who were recently polled. Though only 8 schools, the specialized high schools bear an undeniable symbolic weight in the city, and it is beyond unacceptable that such prominent status-conferring public institutions exclude Black and Latinx students at the rate they do year after year. A single test taken by a 13-year-old on a single day provides little information on what a student may contribute to a high school community over the 4 ensuing years. Even the creators of the Shazat caution against using it in this way, as well as a number of research organizations that were just recently cited. And when we add this, that the Shazat has year after year excluded 2 of the same groups, African American and Latinx students, that have historically been subject to pervasive violence, segregation, and discrimination throughout our city and this nation's history, the system becomes defensible only by those who fail to appreciate the full trauma of that history. Solutions that intend to expand G&T, open more specialized high schools, or funnel more money, more public dollars into the hands of private for-profit test organizations have been tried and failed. They rely on a model of scarcity that will continue to contribute to segregation. If the state legislature does not have the courage or interest to make much needed changes to the Shazat, I encourage you to propose legislation giving power of admissions to the specialized high schools back to the city. Legislators in Long Island and Poughkeepsie have no business making admissions decisions about New York City public schools. And lastly, I want to say that we must interrogate the role that billionaires, organizations like the Pacific Legal Foundation, who have a history of pushing racist agendas, what is their position and intention in this debate? And I think we need to look at the civil rights organizations who are pushing for reform. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Tiffany Chen and I am a 6th grader of Krista McCall of Intermediate School. I want you to picture something in your head. Imagine a child who has worked hard and got good grades in elementary school, doing well in middle school and preparing to take the specialized high school admissions test. Imagine the disappointment of the child when she realizes that she can no longer have the opportunity because the test is eliminated. Even though she worked hard, she is not in the top 7% of her school. Without good alternatives, she will end up at the local high schools where there are limited advanced STEM classes to prepare her for colleges she hopes to attend. The SHSET is based on education and study, not on color, gender, and beliefs. I sincerely hope all honorable legislators can see the wrong of Blasio's bill of eliminating SHSET. Furthermore, the word education means a body of knowledge acquired by being taught. Notice how the definition does not state limited to a specific race only. I am a citizen of New York City. I cannot vote yet, but I can make my voice be heard. As Malala Yousafzai states, education is education. The one quote for her that strikes me the most is, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." Therefore, I want you to consider my words in the unfairness of Blasio's bill. Thank you for your consideration, and please keep SHSET.
Good evening. My name is James Doyle. I'm son of the Bronx. I have two young girls who are in the public school system. Just a few thoughts, and we've heard a lot today, but just a few thoughts on the specialized high schools. They've coexisted with the high schools in New York City for over 80 years as test schools. Stuyvesant was a test school in 1934, Bronx Science followed in 1938, and then Henk Calandra came along, and people forget Henk Calandra actually solved the problem. Specialized high schools were boys only, until it was changed. In 1946, Bronx Science admitted girls. 1969, Stuyvesant admitted girls. And Henk Calandra allowed girls into Brooklyn Tech in 1972. People forget that. The other thing is that, as a proxy, I have very little time here, how many Nobel Prize winners have come from the New York public schools? Do you know that? Either one of you? There's 34. And do you know how they're split? 17 come from the specialized high schools, if you include Townsend Harris, which was once a specialized high school, but our mayor, Fiorello LaGuardia, pulled that out of the specialized high schools, but then it was reestablished in Queens in about 2004 as a high school once again, as a selective high school. 17 Nobel Prize winners come from non-specialized high schools. So what we need to do is establish two things. If you want to go to a specialized high school that's open and fair competitively, go. But we need to improve the standard high schools. People have gone there. They've done very well. Again, if you use a Nobel Prize as your proxy, people have won Nobel Prizes out of the standard high schools and the specialized high school. The choice should be the people's to decide which high school they want to go to. Politicians shouldn't decide that. And the big problem here is we're all prone to biases. Our chancellor talked about inherent bias. Data can be inherently biased, and the interpretation of data can be inherently biased. We need to avoid that. And thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Leona. I'm the mother of 3 boys. My kids are currently attending the public school. 2 of them attending Specialized High School, and 1 of them attending Matric, which is gifted and talented middle school in District 21. His school is the second school sent out most the students to the Specialized High School. I'm here to support the SHSAT. The tax is not the problem, and remove the tax is not the solution. The solution is to fix the K-8 system and create more DNT class and school like Matric. The skin color of our kids is not important because they are our kids and our future. Don't use the race to control our education system. As we all know that the 8 specialized high school are based on the one tax, but it's not the reason to cancel the tax. Tax is a way that the parents know how our kids doing in the school. Instead to cancel the tax, why we don't focus on how to fixing the open education system? When there is some school in the New York City that only had 2.1 students passing the statewide math exam, hold us a proposal that give our a seat on the top 7 each middle school in the New York City to attend the specialized high school. Isn't that make any sense? How can they survive in those schools? Bring down the standard is not the solution to help our kids do the better in their school. And also a lot of people complain about they have so many issues to help their kids to get ready for the specialized high school. And I am a good example for you guys. In 2017, I had to be done 2 big surgery because I had a breast cancer. And in that year, I had to go through 16 chemo and 28 of the radiation. You can imagine that I lose all my hair. But in that year, I support my 2 kids. My second one, he got accepted into Stuyvesant. And my younger one, he got into Montreal. So in my case, I can do it. All the parents can do it. There's no excuse to stop your kids' education. Thank you.
Hello, I'd like to talk about that lady who was up here before. She spoke about the tutoring program. I believe she's Bedford-Stuyvesant. She talked about how she's teaching kids. She talked about a love of education. She talked about a curriculum, actually teaching kids skills. I don't hear this from Chancellor Carranza. I hear Chancellor. Okay, I'll try to talk to you if you promise to investigate math kidding. We have grade fraud, which is going on in our schools. If you promise to investigate the massive grade fraud, which is going on in our schools, defrauding our parents, defrauding our kids of an education, I'll put my face here. I will talk to you. I'm talking to you about grade fraud. That's important because the chancellor wants to make grades, 7th grades, the criteria to get in. If they're fraudulent, that's nuts. Well, we had a lady up here. She talked about teaching children real educational skills. I don't hear that from Chancellor Carranza. All I hear Chancellor Carranza do is push racial division. Every time I hear him say equity, I see it as code words for pushing children down. I say we fire Chancellor Carranza and make that lady the chancellor. There is so much we can do, all of us, working together to lift children up. We don't need to push any child down. We need to investigate this MathGate scandal. We need to make sure every child has a solid foundation in math so they have the opportunity to succeed like my daughter did. We need to bring back gifted and talented programs. There's a bill before your committee, S3878, that will expand gifted and talented. Make sure every district has gifted and talented. Make sure every school has an advanced class. Make sure every middle school has an honors class and SP class. Please pass that bill. It's before your committee. Thank you, and keep the SHSAT.
Hello, Senators. My name is Yifan Chen, and I'm a mother of 2 children, with one of them currently attending public elementary school. I'm also a newly elected member of CC20. I also came to this country at age of 15 without speaking English. I attended public high school in New York City. From there on, I didn't go to specialized high school, but from there on, it didn't stop me. I took the SAT, I took the GRE, and eventually I went to Stanford and obtained my PhD degree. Today, I work as a data scientist with more than 10 years of experience on analyzing and building predictive statistical models. It's really upsetting to see groups misconduct studies and misinterpret results and conclude testing is not a good measure. To that, I say, you see what you want to see in the data. That's the real bias. How about some real observed data? How about the data the gentleman provided with all the Nobel Prize laureates from these specialized high schools? A color-based admission criterion using race and ethnicity is wrong and unlawful. It pits one minority group against another, and it will not solve the problem. Instead, we need to unite all groups together, not to divide. The Shesha scores mirror the ELA results. If you want to get rid of Shesha, do you also want to get rid of all the state tests as well? To that, I said no. We need to keep the test. We need to test to become doctors, lawyers, and different professionals. The reason that For those of you don't know what Cultural Revolution means, that means for 10 years, they didn't have to take any test. They just go to school, and then they will pass, and then they will move on to higher grades. They are illiterated. And 10 years, I mean, whole generation of Chinese people are wasted.
Thank you. So that was the last testimony. Thank you. If you didn't get to testify, you have testimony, you can send it to education at Shazat at, there's two, education at johnlusenate.com. Yes? Education at johnlusenate.com.
You just Google. Robert Jackson.
Yes.
Myself, the email comes up right away.
Right? Or you can get a business card from one of the staff.
Thank you, Joanna. I want to thank all of you for attending this forum. I want to especially thank all the speakers who made their points succinctly and clearly without disrespecting the other speakers. I do not appreciate the two people who consistently interrupted other speakers as well as abuse their own time limit. I want to say that this is a democracy, but we also have something called decorum. The 2 minutes seems like a short amount of time when you sit here for 2.5 hours. But I will say to you, Robert Jackson and I have the privilege of serving in the New York State Senate. There are 63 senators in the state of New York. Each one of us thinks we're the most important people in the Senate. So in the Senate, we also get 2 minutes to talk about our opinion on any particular issue. So yes, it would be great if we had unlimited amounts of time for every single person. The idea of the 2 minutes is so that everybody's voice can be heard. If anybody wants to say more, we have to vacate the school because the school security guards have been nice enough to stay beyond their appointment time. They're working for free now, but I will be on the sidewalk. If you want to get another minute, another 2 minutes, I'll be right there. Or if you want to email